There's no place else really where you can find a whole bunch of other formalists to talk to and to get people to look at the poems and say, what needs to change or what's working well, where I might send it, what market might like this particular poem.
The idea for the Westchester Conference came from a conversation that Mike Pike and I had out in California when he was visiting.
We began talking about the fact that there was no place one could go in this country to study the traditional craft of poetry.
Many of the poets who have attended over the years have been poets working pretty much in isolation. They want to learn about things like how to write a sonnet or how to use some of the more complicated poetic forms or simply the basics of poetic meter. This is certainly the place to come.
Formal poetry made me slow down and think about my choices a lot more. And that challenge produced just a lot better poetry than writing down the first thing that came to my mind.
Clearly there's something going on that it keeps getting rejected, so I'm trying to figure out, well, where are the weak spots? What do I need to do?
When you take one of the workshops at the conference, you also get a chance to do a one-on-one meeting with the workshop teachers to talk about poems in progress. And like many workshops at Westchester, this is really a high level of quality. So people who are in this workshop, many of them could just as easily be, teaching it. It really is more of a meeting of minds.
People are really friendly. Even if they're like a really well-known person, they'll talk to you and ask you what you're doing and what poetry you're interested in.
So one of the things we've always prided ourselves on is being strictly egalitarian. You don't know who you're going to sit next to at lunch or dinner, but in most cases I hope it's someone you haven't talked with before, somebody who wants to talk about the conference or about just their individual poetry.
I remember once we had a reporter coming here who had written about several writers' conferences, and he asked me what was different. And they were walking into the lunchroom, and I said, well, look around this room and tell me from the body language who the teachers are and who the students are. And he looked around and says, I can't.
Poeta emerita Rina Espiat.
I am very happy to hold that post. I think it means oldie but goodie, grandma of the conference. Everything here is done in good spirits. It's done for fun. And there is an endless connection to poetry, but it's a lighthearted one.
Rina Espiat is probably our greatest success story. She began as an attendee, and she slowly transitioned into becoming more and more involved with the conference, and eventually was asked to be a faculty member. And people wanted to study with her. They wanted to work with her. In addition to which, Rina's poetry is published everywhere. Another person is Alicia Stallings. Her career has taken off. A few years ago, she was the recipient of a MacArthur Genius Grant. She's a splendid teacher and an incredibly entertaining reader. David Yezzi is another one who comes to mind. He's a talented teacher, a very fine writer. He teaches currently in the creative writing program at Johns Hopkins University, where he also edits the Hopkins Review.
Among poets, we've had Richard Wilbur, who has been our keynote speaker twice. The list goes on, 21 people, and they've all been distinguished in one way or another. I'm particularly proud that this year we got Sir Andrew Motion, former poet laureate of England, who is now living in the United States.
The Westchester Conference has been unusual in that music has played a large role. In fact, we've ended most conferences with a concert.
We began with Westchester's most famous native and arguably America's greatest composer, Samuel Barber.
I've been a long-time fan of Iris DeMent, and it just seemed perfect because Iris DeMent last year released a CD called The Trackless Woods, which in fact sets the poetry of the great Russian poet Anna Akhmatova to music.
In 2005, I created an endowment for the Iris and Spencer Undergraduate Awards, which are open to any student enrolled in a college or university in the United States. And we get entries from all over the nation, all 50 states. The caliber of the entries we get year to year is quite astonishing. In addition to the undergraduate awards, we have the Donald Justice Poetry Prize, which is for a more mature poet, which includes the prize as well as a published volume of poetry. All these poets, both young and more mature, read every year at the conference.
I believe that a huge number of people who come to Westchester feel that the experience of Westchester has been a decisive moment in their life. And they've come back because, in a sense, they've created friends here, they've created a sense of themselves that they really couldn't have gotten on their own.